Welcome to episode 185 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Dane Palarino. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Dane Palarino, the founder of Dad Bod Sculptors. Dane, thanks for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
The Dad Bod has become a very polarizing thing where some people are like, hey, this is what people want. This is what you should have. It's okay to be soft and out of shape and whatever. And then the other side of it is like, no, only under 10% body fat year round, always, squatting a couple 100 pounds. And like, it's hard to find this middle ground.
Yeah.
And now the Dad Bod Sculptor is an interesting name and I like it a lot.
Thank you.
But describe it to me and your experience with the Dad Bod and how this came to be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one, thanks for having me on the show, man. Super excited to be here. Number two was, I guess the backstory, real short context is I've been a business owner. I've been active my whole life. I've always kind of been in and around the gym, training. And through the years, as I've gotten busier as being a father, being a business owner, being a husband, the time in the gym was kind of limited, right? So I started doing things like calisthenics, and then I invested in like a group Orange Theory fitness class where it was like, hey, just go check the box, go through these classes. And I was getting better in the classes because they would track your data, track your calories, track your endurance, and time certain things. So I was like, all right, on that metrics, I was doing well, right? Like I had the hour a day that I was allotting to training. I was fasting for 16 hours a day. And I was getting better at the metrics in the class. So I was like, all right, cool. But I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to my body, right? Because I was in this stage where we had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. We really weren't out and about, like having to get dressed up and go out and kind of entertain like we had used to in our 20s and earlier 30s. So I wasn't paying attention, but I did notice that I was only wearing like 1 or 2 outfits, like only shirts that felt good or looked good on me, right? And I found that I started buying bigger and bigger clothes, but I wasn't really like into the vanity or kind of like, taking selfies and looking at myself in the mirror. But essentially they did this competition and, at Orange Theory Fitness, it was a transformation competition and they'd taken a before picture. Now I thought I was going to take it when I entered the contest. And then they said, no, come upstairs. We're going to take it. And I was like, all right, something about me got really nervous. And they took that picture and honestly, I looked like an eggplant. I was like, I didn't see that coming, and part of me was super embarrassed, but the other part was really angry. I was angry because I looked like that and I had a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Like, I can't believe I look like this. I'm fasting for 16 hours a day. I'm doing better in these classes, so to speak. I'm spending $200 a month. Like, this doesn't right. And so I was in a place where that frustration led me to a lot of self-actualization and realization that was impacting who I was to my family, to my wife, to my employees, because I was not a happy or pleasant person to be around. I had built this headhunting firm to be the most successful company I'd ever built. We were the leader in the industry. It took us 3 years to build a 7-figure agency. We were number one in the world at what we did for building hyper-growth software companies. And as a headhunter, and I had realized, but I was the most unhappy I'd ever been. And I did not know why. But when I saw that picture, I had this realization and this tough conversation with myself. But it was probably because I was in a body I was not comfortable with. And I had made a lot of compromises in my own standards in life that led to that. And I wasn't really admitting that. I was justifying it because I was building a business. I was a new father. I had a lot of comfort in my home. I had comfort in my finances. So I was rewarding myself with the IPA beer at night and whatever I wanted to eat at night because I fasted for 16 hours and I trained. And then that finished it off with sugar. And then I kind of rinsed and repeated. I didn't have a morning wake up time that I followed. I got up when my body got up. I was one of those, I let my body rest till it's unrested, And that really made me realize, like, damn, I dropped a lot of standards in some areas of my life. Like in my business, I had kept them high, but in my personal health and fitness, I had dropped them. And that was impacting my relationships. And most importantly, the most important role that I was playing with my kids. And what I mean by that, Daniel, is I was super short. I was agitated, aggravated, aggressive, angry a lot of times. And I didn't know why. I was always the common denominator in every fight that we had in the house. And then when I saw that picture, it really came to fruition that it was like, it's because I'm super insecure. I am not happy in this body. And so that was the turning point for me. I decided that I was going to fix this problem, and I was going to get the right information to do it and really sculpt my body to a place that I was comfortable in. So that was kind of the breeding ground for Dad Bod Sculptors. I had no intentions of being an online coach or an influencer or having a Dad Bod Sculptors brand. I just wanted to be successful at headhunting, but I wanted to be confident in my personal life again.
Phenomenal story, and there's an absolute ton to dig into there. But one thing that I want to zero in on, and I'm not sure if you'll have a definitive answer for this, but when it's not an uncommon story for people to see a photo of themselves and be like, okay, now, that's my quote unquote rock bottom. And from here on out, like I'm changing my life type of thing, right? There's a lot more into it than just that, but generally. The other side of that is seeing that photo of yourself not caring or going further down the spiral of, I'm fine, I work hard, I make plenty of money, I'm good, F it, I'm just going to keep gaining weight and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Is there anything about yourself, your own character, or maybe something that you've seen through clients who go through a similar type of transformation that you can say, that's the reason why I took the positive route after seeing that photo versus going further down the hole?
Yeah, for me, it's always been a problem of like 1 + 1 = 2. And when I understood the two pieces of the equation and how they equaled out, whether it was any area of my life that wasn't right, once I saw that area, it was like, this is leading to that and that's leading to this. Okay, so I need to fix this. Then I always went deeper into fixing that. I've always been into kind of personal development and creating my best self, but I just had been so entrenched in building this business and fixing every little part of the business, always like, this is broken, make it better. This is broken, make it better. So it was always process oriented because I knew that systems scaled. So I was always into building systems for my businesses. And then I had found ways in my personal life earlier on to get systems that really worked for me in getting to actually become a successful entrepreneur. But when I became successful, that's when the comfort set in and I stopped having systems in my own personal life. And that's when I realized through that awareness, like, okay, I need a system to run Dane now. Like I know how to run Palarino Partners, but now there needs to be a system to run Dane as the business owner, as the father, as the husband, but most importantly, as the human. Like, because this guy doesn't scale well for his kids. Like my one son is 3 and the other one was, 6 months. And I just played it out forward. Okay, he's 8 and he's 5. He's 12 and he's 9. Who am I for them as this continues? And I played that card and it was like, whoa, this is not going to be the dude that I envisioned leading my kids because I won't have any sort of ground or leverage to set standards for them. And I was always somebody that had these standards. Like I always kept raising the bar in my own life. Like, no, we can do better. We can do better. We can do this better. So I always looked at things we could do better. So when I saw my body, I was like, man, I'm not practicing what I preach here. And there was this conflict internally. So I've noticed a lot of my clients, the common denominator is these guys are all successful in their business, which has required a high level of focus and discipline and consistency. And most importantly, anytime I ask them, what makes you successful? It always comes down to those things, but also I have a system that I rely on. So why wouldn't you create that for your own personal health and well-being? And so that's the connection. When I make that connection for them, it's like, you're absolutely right. I need the blueprint. And so that's when it becomes a really good natural fit for me and clients. Like I always tell people, the day I have to start selling something is the day I leave that business, right? Because I work from a place of passion and purpose 100%. If I'm not living it, breathing it, and knowing the pure benefit that it brings to my life, and it could bring to your life, then I have to sell you on something. It's just not a good fit. So that's why I've really been niched down into owning who our people are. Because when we identify that, it's like they want the blueprint. They want to collapse time. And so that's been a big common denominator with me and also with my people.
That makes a ton of sense. I'd also maybe summarize it into the ability to play the tape forward, so to speak, in that you were able to see like, okay, this is where I'm at now. If I continue down this path, here's what things look like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years down the road.
Yeah.
And you can then make a decision, well, like, hey, I don't like that. So I've got to change things now so that that 7 year down the road picture looks a little bit different.
That's right.
Which for sure would be very common with business owners, because you've got to be able to think a little bit ahead and make systems to create whatever it is that you're doing. Because, like, no one's built a great business by just like, oh, I'll wake up in the morning and do whatever feels like it's right today. Like that's not a way to build a business.
And the check's not coming in until you perform, right? Like you quickly start realizing, okay, the plane's in the air and it's going down every day. Like I got to figure out how to keep this baby up here. And so you start figuring out systems really, really quickly. And they become religion to you, essentially. Like it's everything that you rely on. And it also allows you to go like, okay, this part's broken the system. So as I started to do that, like what was the system? What's the right style of training for me over 35? My muscle mass is decreasing, right? My metabolism is slowing down. My energy is being reduced, right? Like everything like that was once maybe assumed was now all of a sudden prevalent in like, okay, these things are starting to decrease and I got to work against gravity. So I need to figure out like what's the optimum way to train and build muscle that I want to have, because I want it to be a strong man. I want it to look like a strong man for my kids. I didn't want them to have this skinny little wrinkly dad with a belly and all that stuff. It was like, I wanted to be a strong man to protect them, somebody they were proud of. And so that meant like I wanted to add muscle to my frame. This group Orange Theory fitness class, it was great for the metrics, but shit, it wasn't building muscle, right? And I wanted to build some muscle. And so I went back to really the basics and learning like right style of training, right style of nutrition. How do I incorporate that into my busy lifestyle? And that's kind of where I started.
So talk to me about that. Talk to me about the specifics. What did you actually do from your training from Orange Theory? How did you change your diet? Because again, you weren't doing nothing. You were exercising and you were following some form of diet, kind of, and at least fasting. But give me the specifics. What did you do from there?
Yeah, so up until this point, the last couple of years I had tried everything. Like I did the keto thing, I did paleo, I did no carbs. Then I went to the fasting protocol for a while. I don't know if you know Dave Asprey, but I was doing bulletproof coffee. Like I tried all these things. None of them were sustainable because at the end of the day, I was consuming a lot more calories than I wanted because I was undernourished and I wasn't getting the right nutrients. And so with me, it was like, okay, I'm going to do what I've always done. In business, I found somebody that was ahead of me, had what they wanted, and I figured out what is their playbook? What are they doing? So the first place was like, I found somebody that had a body that I wanted. And I started researching, and one of the guys I came across was Steve Cook, who was I don't know how you classify him, but I found him on YouTube. And I was like, this dude has a great physique. He's got full muscles. He looks athletic. He's vibrant, right? He seems that this guy's doing shit all day long, so he's got enough energy to get through the day. Like I was finding that if I took out carbs, like I was tired around 2-3 o'clock and I was relying on caffeine. And so I started studying him. One of the things he said was like what I said just there. He's like, I've tried all these other things and I really like the way carbs make me look. And that gives me the end. And I was like, well, I want to look like him. So I'm going to figure out how to incorporate carbs. And then I realized he followed a macro-based meal eating plan. So it was like, I remember doing this. When I was 20 in college, I had a college roommate that was into macro-based eating because he was a D1 baseball player. And he taught me like chicken and rice, like the basics. So I remember like I had this thought. I was like, and excuse me swearing, but it was the exact thought I had. It was like, chicken and rice, motherfucker. I'm going back to the chicken and rice. Like I remember when I had chicken and rice, I had discipline. I had consistency. I had a body that I was proud of. And I remember it had structure to that thing. And then it was like, well, that's a lifestyle. That's not a diet. That's a lifestyle. And so I was like, I just went back to like learning, okay, the lifestyle behind building muscle isn't like you stop and go. It's like you go and you keep going deeper. You don't go inch across 7 different areas. You pick one area and you go 6 feet deep. And I love that because at my age, I needed something that was sustainable for me, that I wasn't going to, when I dropped the 15 pounds, I wasn't going to be like, all right, I dropped the 15. Now we just go back. I wanted something that was really sustainable for me. And I had recognized that the only way to validate myself was going to be through the habits and the work that I did. I couldn't allow the results to validate me because this insecurity I had. I was always looking for outside validation from my wife, from my kids, from the people. Why don't they compliment me? Why don't they, desire me? And I knew like that was baby shit, right? Like that's the little child in me. Like I need to go validate myself through my habits and through my work. And so the system of building muscle required proper training, right? Like a very structured style of training, proper nutrition, which meant like every 4 hours I needed to eat a meal. So I knew, hey, if I'm fueling myself every 4 hours, that's going to really change the way that I look at things. And then the things I look at are going to change. And so also it was a guardrail for me. It was a guardrail that I could stay consistent daily and win with my habits daily, as opposed to like, well, I've been doing this damn thing 3 weeks. I don't know if I'm getting the results. Like, let me start looking for another plan. And that's literally what every guy does. 9.5 out of 10 guys. And I had been that dude. So for me, it was like, no. If I can do this, I know that the results are going to come. And a man that is focused on the habits and also kind of the work, he never worries about the results. And that man can't be stopped because every day he's just focused on one thing. Execute your daily habits, focus on doing the work, the results will come. And so that was where I went. And I just said, like, they're going to see. And it was weird because like my wife saw me changing food. We'd go eat. We'd go to my mother-in-law's house. It was like, I mean, is this really necessary? He can't eat the pizza. He's not having the drink. Like, but I didn't look the part. So it's hard to explain to them, like, you don't see it now, but you're going to see it one day. Right. And because I knew these habits are going to lead to a very different version of myself. And that's what I was essentially trying to do, Daniel. It was like, I wanted to kill the old guy and build back a bigger, better, stronger version of myself. And so the habits and the work that I instilled around that system was what was going to get me there. And I still deploy that every single day.
I'm so happy you kind of ended on that piece of the story, because I think this is a very common thing for anyone who's not in that, college age, which is the people who are listening to this, right? It's one thing to be 20 years old and go to the gym 6 times a week and, have all your meals dialed in because you don't really care what anyone else is doing. You have no responsibilities other than yourself. And
That's
even
right.
then it's like, your own self is barely a responsibility in your life when you're 20. But then, you're 30, 35 plus, you've got maybe a family, you've got a real job, you've got actual things going on in your life. So it's not that easy to kind of put the blinders on and make sure you hit the gym multiple times a week without fail. Make sure that you're getting the chicken and broccoli and rice,
That's right.
and ignoring the work parties, the family things, the other social obligations. So how did you navigate the social side of that when you're trying to make this transformation? And like you said, you didn't look the part yet.
Yeah.
And so people don't really understand it. They just think you're being weird.
That's right. So there was a couple of different ways, like with different protocols. So when I was home, because I worked from home, I ran my business from home, that allowed me to have the structure. And that structure really made me a happier person because like I set up these 5 daily non-negotiables in my life. When I was home, I could execute. I controlled the controllable, okay? And I hit my macros, I hit my protein, I hit my carbs, I hit my fat, I hit my workout, I hit my early wake up time. So that kept me as always in this elevated state. And my business really started to soar because I did that, right? Like I literally everything else 10x because it was like I was enjoying being myself again, right? And that was, I was attracting more things at a higher vibrational plane as opposed to where I was before, this lower vibration state. And so I was more pleasant to be around. So then when we did go travel, I had a different protocol. It was like, okay, I can't have 6 meals there. I can't have the 5 meals there. So I recognized fasting has a place in space. So that was when I would leverage the fasting. It was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I don't go over in a calorie surplus and eat my face off and feel like crap. So I'm going to be smart about it. I'm going to bring some protein powder. I'm going to bring some oatmeal. I'm going to bring some fruit, like things that were simple and easy and didn't make anybody feel super uncomfortable. And I would run a fasting protocol on those travel days where I'd fast until 12 or 12:30. I'd break it with some high protein and a simple carb, right? It was nobody noticed I was drinking a shake and eating an apple. So it was nobody was super uncomfortable. And then I would always try to go get some sort of workout in because the family knew I had always worked out. Even when I didn't look the part, I always went and tried to get an hour in. But now I was a little more disciplined. And so then that fasting protocol allowed me to then at night enjoy whatever I wanted with that family, right? So I was like, yeah, he can have the pizza, or he can have the whatever you want. I didn't want to, at that stage, I didn't want to make people feel too uncomfortable. And I didn't truly have like the physique that I had now. So it was like, I knew, okay, there's a calorie number that I need to stay under. There's a protein number I need to hit. And I'm going to be strategic about how I consume these calories so that I'm not the odd man out here. And so that always worked. I always went on vacation. I managed that, and I never came back where it was like, oh, now I got to lose these 7 pounds from the 4 or 5 days outside the house. And so I teach my guys that as well, because a lot of my guys, they travel for business. They got social outings. They got vacations. It's like, hey, there's a protocol for that, man. You just got to be planned. Here's how we're gonna run this. And they come back. It's like one guy, like he went to Europe for 3 weeks, and he's like, I have never come back from Europe at or below the number. He's like, it's usually 10 to 15 pounds every year. He's like, I had a better time this year. I had more energy, and I came back 5 pounds lighter. He's like, I really cannot believe it. He's like, I didn't stop eating, because the most important meal is that dinner meal, right? Like people want to enjoy that. So if you can just say, that's the reward, bro, like just hold off each day, train your mind around, I'm burning fat all day. I'll enjoy myself at night. And that's it. It's just kind of shifting the perspective on how you look at it.
I love fasting for that exact reason, because it makes these kind of social interactions like a lot easier to stay on track.
Yeah.
But to your earlier point where you were fasting and not really having success, it only works when the base principle of like your calories and your macros are in check, because fasting itself doesn't actually just like magically burn fat, right? It's just a method of saving your calories for later so that you can enjoy that big meal. And that's something that's super important to highlight. I don't know if you've noticed this, and things go in waves, but like over the last year, it seems fasting is making a bit of a comeback, and I'm a fan of it for these types of things, but like as just a blanket strategy just to use for no other reason than like, oh, I heard some guy online say it loses weight. It's like, it's just not a good strategy, and it seems to be more in men. I don't know if you're realizing the same.
I am, because I've had clients like, hey, what about some famous guy, maybe it was Joe Rogan or somebody did one of these fasting things and they lost a bunch of weight, and it was Dana White. Dana White did this fasting
the
thing.
72 fasting.
Yeah. And it was like, everybody was like, no, man, like that's short term. Like incorporate daily habits that are sustainable for your lifestyle, and you're going to get there. You're looking for the quick, easy pill. Like, stop it. Yeah.
So on the workout side of things then, over 35, changing again, that contrast to like being 20 and, feeling good and all that stuff. How did you organize your workouts, and what types of exercises were you doing? What was different about what you were doing when you kind of got back into it versus what you would have been doing when you were 20?
Yeah. So I went back to the basics. Like I looked at just kind of like Mike Metzer, Tom Platz, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler. I was studying Nick Walker, more present people, Derek Lunsford, like some of the best pros. And I watched 2-3 hours a night. Like when my wife would fall asleep in the room with the kids because they were younger, she'd put in a bed and sometimes she'd fall asleep. And I'd have all that time, and I just watched like over and over. And there was this consistent theme. They weren't doing these one arm fucking wall handstands with balls in between their legs. It was like, they're just doing the basics, right? And they're progressively getting, and that really gave me a much better understanding of hypertrophy style training. It wasn't the weight that you were moving. It was the time under tension, the activation, how you were feeding the muscle before, how you were feeding it during, how you were feeding it after. Right? Like some of those key things that were just little tips and tricks at every corner. And so then I realized, okay, I want to do this for a long time. I don't want to get hurt. So anytime I saw somebody talking about a 1 rep max, right? No, not my shit, right? Like I'm not doing any of that. I don't have spotters in the gym. So I really focused on progressive overload and really leaving kind of 2 reps in reserve for everything. Like I'm going to get as far as I can, where I could probably get 2 more if I had a spotter. But I don't have a spotter, so that's going to be my limit. And I kind of stayed there, and then I progressed from there. If I didn't want to go heavier weights, then I would focus on, okay, today I'm going to focus more on time under tension. Today I'm going to focus more on tempo. Like there's all these different ways to make sure that you stay away from injury, but you also engage that muscle long enough to grow it and stimulate it. And that was the whole thing for me. It was like, I'm going to do the basics, but I'm going to do them better than I've ever done them. And I'm going to get consistently improve in those basics. And that was really the basis of it. And so I went to really, like, maybe you call it a bro split or some shit like that, but it was like what these guys were doing, and that worked for me. And then I grew over time to make sure, like, okay, I'm still enjoying the workouts, and I incorporated cardio to make sure that the cardio was taking the body fat down, keeping good heart health, cardiovascular pump, like pushing nutrients throughout my body so that they were going to the areas I was training, like all these little pieces of the puzzle that I knew were parts of the equation, but I didn't know how to structure them. And then I started to see, as I incorporated this more and more, oh, okay, that's when you do that. Okay, now you do that. And I put all these pieces together, and then the body was changing. And that, you know, when the body changes, like I tell guys, like what took me 4 years, man, I'm giving you in 12 weeks, I'm collapsing time. Right? I had to wait 90 days to be like, oh, I'm changing. This is working. But for them, I always try to get them results within the first 2 weeks, because if they see they get the results, like they're down 7 pounds, 8 pounds, 11 pounds, right? It's like, oh my God, my effort's actually working. I've been stuck at this number forever. Then they tend to be a lot more interested. And when you're more interested, you put a lot more energy behind something because you believe it. So that's really the goal of the system, is to guarantee that we're going to get to a place within a very short period of time where you're going to get enough results where you're going to be the believer. Because a lot of times I see what they don't see yet. And so
it's so hard to just to get that buy-in, right? Because we know that this stuff takes a long time. To see like drastic change takes a long time.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot of things right and still not see that big of a change in a very short time period.
That's right.
And so, you know, us as coaches, we've kind of gone through, we've tested various workouts, various nutrition things through ourselves, through learning from others and all this stuff. And we're like, okay, now we know what works and we know what's on the other side of this road. But we've still got to be able to say like, hey, we need you to get a quick win because I know that you trust me. But in the back of their mind, I'm sure they're always like, I don't know, it's been, 4 or 5 weeks. I'm just like, yeah, I kind of feel a little good, but like, just not feeling it. And so expanding that time horizon to be like, hey, this is a 6-month thing. This is a 2-year thing.
Yeah.
But we got to get those quick little wins. So then what are your strategies to get those quick wins that are not like detrimental to the program, or doing something that is like a 3-day fast where it's kind of extreme, but
like I have clients that have come to me like, oh, like they did a program. Well, what happened? Well, I had some initial results and I lost the results. Well, tell me what happened in the initial results. Well, it was a 14-day juice cleanse or vegetable cleanse. Like, oh, fucking, of course you got results. Like, you're going to live on a juice or vegetable cleanse, like a celery cleanse for your whole life? Like, no. So that's not sustainable. What we're doing is I say, hey, like we're going to put a protocol in place with foods that are optimal. We're going to make sure that we're training with intensity and being intentional. And we're going to make sure every single Friday that you check in. Not only are you going to take pictures and log your weight every day, well, you take your pictures once a week, but you log your weight every day just so you know, okay, I'm just going to log this. And that's really for me to see how they're tracking. But every single Friday, all my guys check in. And that's a piece that I wish that I had, because I didn't. I would go months without, I just trusted it was working because I focused on the habits and the work. But I when I built this, it was like, I want to become the person that I needed most, and I want to give that to these men. So that's where I put this weekly accountability check-in. Every Friday morning, the first thing they do is they check in. There's a check-in form. They tell me how well they slept, how well they recovered, what their pump was like, what their energy was like, what their sleep was like, where their compliance was, like all these different things that really recap the week. And they also log their weight and they take progress pictures. I don't focus so much on the progress pictures. We focus on the other metrics. We focus on also the scale. So always we see the scale go down, the energy goes up, the attitude gets better. So we've got progress. So on the weekends, I do the weekend check-in feedback to them. So I spend my Saturdays and Sundays personally doing all this, and that's giving them feedback. Hey, we're going to set a new target for this week. In this private check-in, this is our focus this week. So every week they've got a 7-day target, and that keeps them really engaged in the process. And if they ever need me on a daily basis, they can message me like, hey, can I swap this for that? Or hey, why can't I have this? And I'm always teaching them the why behind things, because I think that that's really important. Not only to tell them what to do, when to do it, how to do it, but hey, here's why you're doing it. Because I want them to incorporate this as a lifestyle, not being a short-term coaching thing. And then once they leave me, they don't know how to control that body composition again. But if they understand, oh, I can't do this because that leads to that for men always seems to kind of click at another level, like once they've got the competency. So that's exactly how we do it. Every single week, they do a private check-in with me and I give them feedback. And sometimes it's, okay, your compliance was only 70%. We're going to work on the challenges of this week and we're going to get that compliance up. Let's try to get it to 90%. Let's work around the challenge last week this way. Sometimes guys that are deeper into the program, we track it with a Whoop so we can see their intensity. and how often they're training. So if I know, hey, this guy's been 100% compliance, he's doing what we asked him to do, I'm going to look at some of the other data, right? Let's look at the training. Let's look at the nutrition. Let's look at the cardio. Let's look at the supplementation. Hey, I'm going to make some calibrations here. So every week we make calibrations in one of those 4 areas or those pillars. And sometimes it's just teaching people how to change mindset and get more compliant, or hey, I've got to make some adjustments as your coach so that we can stay the course. And that's really what helps them really feel connected to the process. Like, hey, I don't have a whole lot of time, but the time I'm invested, this guy's doing it with me. And I know that he's course correcting every single week for me. And that really just gets people super involved. And then what I love about it, Daniel, is they get so involved that they make the right choices on their own. Like I just then become the guide. Right? Like, hey, I went on vacation and this place that an example would be one of these guys. I went on vacation and every year we go down to the Jersey Shore and there's like 5 spots that I hit. Like I hit the pizza place, I hit the meatball place. I've got my favorite this. He's like, but this year it was like, I'm going to pick one meal and it was like, he's like, so I had to really go through like, which one is the one meal I want to have? And that's where you want to be, because you value the work that you put in. You value the habits that you have. You didn't worry about the results, but now you see the results and you want to protect those results.
It's so important, again, understanding the principles of what you're doing. Same as the fasting thing, right? It's really easy to be like, hey, you can eat chicken and rice and broccoli. Just eat that 3 meals a day forever. And like probably you'd be pretty shredded. I mean, you'd be absolutely miserable, but it would definitely be effective, right? Yeah. And so if you're only following like, hey, you must only eat these foods, yeah, it'll work. But like for how long, right? Now with these guys, are there any particular challenges that you find that they face as, being probably business owners, maybe a little bit more affluent, and being over 35, what are some of the biggest things that they're coming up against?
Initially, it's time. So like when I say, hey, what's the issue? It's time. 2, it's knowledge. Like they've stopped and started a lot of things. So they're really fucking so confused as to what they should be doing, what they should be eating. Like, so there's just like no competency around it. So that confusion leads to inactivity, right? And then 3, it's kind of motivation. And that motivation, I always notice, it's because nobody's holding you accountable. You don't have somebody checking in or investing in that process. Like that weekly accountability meeting, so many guys would tell me, you know how many cookies I didn't eat this week because I knew I had to do this check-in, right? Like, and so just even having that helps. Like, motivation is fleeting. That's why I always say, we're going to focus on the work. The work instills the worth. And so if you do these daily habits, you're going to constantly be elevating your vibration to a positive, more energetic space. And that is going to instill the belief and the confidence that you need. So we always go back to like the basics for them. And so I teach them, we're going to create time by getting up early. Like once we step up, the world starts throwing problems at us, especially if they're a business owner. Like you wake up to 30 fires a day sometimes. Some guys are much more than that. So it's like you need to get up before the world does. You need to go to bed earlier. So I teach them a nighttime protocol to unwind earlier, which means like taking out TV, to putting the device away, having a tea, and really preparing the mind for, hey, we're unwinding now. And that leads to an early wake up time. So I teach them, we're no longer going to train whenever we want to train or the middle of the day, end of the day bullshit. We're getting up early and we're going to do this first. Because 1, it's going to elevate our vibration. 2, we're going to have a W from getting up early. And then we're going to have another W from training. And then 3, we're going to have a meal right after that training. So you've already got 3 W's before the world's awakened, right? And so now think about how you're showing up for the rest of the day. Well, it could get crazy. It could get crazy, but every 4 hours you come up and you fuel yourself. So all you got to focus on is 4-hour blocks. Win 1 meal at a time. Focus on the block, be where your feet are, execute, whether that's playing the business owner, the husband, the father, the community leader, the employee. That's when you're present. You've already taken care of the fuel aspect. So you remove that decision fatigue that a lot of guys have. What should I eat in the morning? When should I train? What should I have for lunch? Hey, what are we going to have for dinner? Like that shit just takes energy from you. And aside from all the other decisions you have to make in your life, Like the best thing that this system has done for me and every client that follows the protocol, it's like, you want me to change? No, I don't want you to change a thing. I love that I don't have to think about this anymore. I know that 8 o'clock I eat this, 11 o'clock I eat that, 2 o'clock I have this meal. And every time I look forward to those meals because they've changed their perception of it. They're no longer eating for flavor, they're eating for fuel. And that fuel helps them become the person they want to become. That's the whole thing. Like training and nutrition isn't to be a bodybuilder. It's to help you get closer to who you want to become. And you use training and nutrition as tools to do that for you, because the food you put in your body is going to give you better mental fortitude. It's going to feed more positive thoughts. It's going to feed more convictions. The training is for the mind and the kitchen is for the body. So when you tie those two together, you create a dangerous human being.
Absolutely. I think one of the pushbacks to some of that might be that it feels robotic. I'm eating the same meals or the same meals at the same times every day. I'm working out at the same time every day. I'm going to bed at the same time every day. And my argument against that is that I think people are doing that anyways. They're just doing it unconsciously slow.
That's right.
People eat the same junk foods routinely.
Yep.
They do the same. Everyone has a bedtime routine. Just sometimes it's, I watch TV and then I scroll on TikTok and then I smoke a joint and then I go to bed.
Yeah.
Like you might not do that consciously and like as a way of being well, but like you're still doing that as your bedtime routine.
That's right.
So you can instill a good bedtime routine that is promoting health and wellness and vitality and all the things. So we need to get away, I think, from thinking that we're being robotic by caring about our fitness and our health and our nutrition and all these things.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can consciously live my life, and that is going to give me a way better results than if I'm just going through the motions as I'm going through. And again, it circles back to this, like playing the tape forward a little bit.
Yeah. 100%.
What do things look like if I continue on this road, right?
That's it, man. I made a video the other day on one of my stories. It was like, we're all suffering. We all suffer every single day. You're either suffering unconsciously or you're making a conscious decision to suffer. And I always say the difference is this. When you're not living your best life and you're eating whatever you want, you're drinking whatever you want, you're not really taking care of your body, you are suffering. You could be playing that you're cool, you're calm, you're happy, but you're not. Every morning, you're not looking yourself in the mirror. You don't have your shoulders back. You're not leading your kids the right way. You're not desiring your wife the right way because you don't feel good in your own skin. And when you don't feel good in your own skin, you can only mask it so long, but you start to then really recognize like, I'm insecure. And that's the center of the onion, right? And so when you're living from that place, you're suffering. Like I always say, like the law of polarity states that someone who doesn't know the depths of hell cannot know heaven. And I know the depths of hell because I was successful. I had more money than I ever could have imagined. I had a business that was thriving. I have a beautiful wife. I had 2 healthy kids. I had everything that should say I was happy, but I was super miserable. I was living in hell every day. And I could not understand why. Why am I not motivated? Why don't I want to get up? Why am I snapping at my wife? Why am I picking fights all the time? Why are my kids irritating me? Like all these little things. It wasn't until I saw that picture and I went, that's why, dude. Like I'm not proud of me. If I'm embarrassed of me, they're going to be embarrassed of me. Whether they're admitting it now or not, they're going to be embarrassed of me. And everybody that carries around 30%, 40%, there's that voice inside of them that knows I'm not living my best life. So they are suffering, okay? And that type of suffering is very low vibration plane. You're only going to attract more things on a lower vibration plane, more fear, more doubt, more anxiety, right? More insecurity, just all negative vibration things. Now, the other type of suffering, which is, hey, yeah, I got to get up early, a little bit of suffering. I got to eat the same time, same foods, a little bit of suffering. I got to put myself through a grueling workout every day, a little bit of suffering, right? These are choices. But when you make the conscious decision to do the hard thing and put yourself, self-inflicted suffering, boy, you raise your state to an elevated state. So now all of a sudden you're in higher vibrational plane. So now you're attracting higher vibrational things in your life. Better women, if you're single, right? Better marriage, better partnerships, better finances, better business opportunities. Why? Because people recognize and put people on plateaus, on pedestals when they see that they're different than everyone else. It's because they're consistent and they're disciplined in their life. Every top 1%er in every field has those two things. They're dedicated to a system that's routine, robotic, and that consistency leads to us praising them. So that is self-inflicted suffering, right? All the top athletes self-inflict suffering. They choose to suffer every day more than the average Joe, and they're rewarded 10 times more than the average Joe. So you're going to suffer one way or the other, consciously or unconsciously. I just choose to suffer consciously. Like, do I want to go train every day? No. Do I want to eat the same meal every day? Most of the time, because it's not a thought. But there are times where it's like, damn, I don't want to eat this. I really want to go do that. But it's like, no, because I know when I eat that, I play the tape forward. Then my digestion is off for 2 days. I don't wake up the same person tomorrow. I might even sleep in. Then I'm going to be cranky that I slept in. I'm probably going to pick a fight with my wife because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And you start playing that tape. Why? Because I've done it so many fucking times. And I know that's how I show up when I don't do the things I say I want to do. And so that I think, Dan, was a really good point, right? It's like suffering is in all of our lives. It's just whether you're embracing it or you're not.
There are consequences to everything, both positive and negative. So no matter what action you take, including inaction, there's going to be something that happens from that. So
Always.
If we are able to pause and think about things logically, like you're better off choosing the thing that's going to give you a positive consequence or the consequence that you want. Because there's going to be times in your life where it's like, you know what? Like you're on vacation and you're choosing your favorite spot at the restaurant that you usually go to. There is a trade-off there where it's like, hey, I know that my stomach's going to hurt after this. I'm going to be a little lazy, not going to sleep great. I'm going to whatever. But like that meal is so good to me and it's sentimental and it's whatever the thing is for you that like that trade-off is worth it for you because the positives outweigh the negatives for you.
That's right.
And that's okay. But like that can't be every day. It can't be your average Tuesday night. Like we've got to set some boundaries on it. That's for vacations and special occasions and that's okay.
That's right.
And I think with that people get caught up in I went on vacation, I get off track. Unless you're going on vacation every other week, like take care of yourself the rest of the year. You've got 52 weeks in the year. You go on vacation 2 weeks a year, 3 weeks a year. Okay, great. You've got 50 weeks to like be dialed in. Be dialed on those 50 weeks. And then when you're doing your thing on special occasions or whatever, then, you go ahead. But you're not going to take that much of a backward step if you're dialed most of the time. And that's where it really matters.
For 100%, man. Like suffering is the best way to help other people, right? Like most people want to sleep in, they want to eat whatever they want, they want to go to the gym when it's convenient for them. Like they want to do all these things, but like when you suffer in your own life and people then recognize he's different. He's like, you walk in a room and you're a fit man, like people recognize that, right? Like they're curious about your lifestyle. And I always say curiosity leads to influence. Once somebody's curious about your lifestyle, that gives you the ability to share what's worked for you. And if you're a man of faith, right, if you're a man of morals and of high character, you get to then say, yeah, this is what I do. And now that's your ability to impact one other human being and influence how they think and how they act and how they perceive. And it's like, so that's really, it's the most selfless thing you can do is to lead and suffer in your own life so that you can help other people get out of the suffering that they're in. Like that became like the big aha moment for me many years into my transformation. At first, it was a very selfish thing. Like I need to do this for Dane. Like this is about me. This is about me. So I could be there for you, my family, my wife, my kids, and my business. But after that, like when I saw how I impacted, like people come up to me in the gym or the grocery store or the ice cream shop, like wherever it is, I'm always getting stopped. And how my kids then reflect like, man, who's my dad? They must think I'm a celebrity. Like, hey, dad. And people will be like, hey, are you the dad bod sculptor? Like when people say that in public and they recognize, like they've seen my Instagram and stuff, my kids are so proud of that, like it's just amazing. So it's like, then I realized like all of that suffering, that test that I was in, that miserable, dark place that I was in, the depths of hell have allowed me to now experience heaven from a place of gratitude. And so my test has now become my testament. And it's like, that was like that realization. It was like, it's never about you, dude. Like, you know what I mean? The mission is way bigger than the man. And so I always tell people like, hey, this is about you right now. We're getting you out of the way of you. Once you get past that, then the world's going to try to get in your way. And then you're going to keep propelling to teach people how to do it themselves. And everybody loves to have a purpose. Like some people haven't found their purpose in their career, right? Or, I don't know what I want to do. Like, well, that's a purpose that we all can get tied to, helping another human being from our own experience. And so the journey should be about that. And that's always, I think, one of the biggest things for me. It's like who I am is so that I'll suffer any day of the week for my kids, for my wife, for like You know what I mean? And now I suffer for the other men. And I don't really see it as suffering. It's just, but like yesterday, I didn't want to do legs. It was like, I sat in the car for like 20 minutes looking at insert, doing everything that you could possibly do to delay this leg workout, you know? But I went to that place of, if I drive home, how am I going to feel? The rest of the day, it's going to be wasted. Have such an attitude and be so disappointed in myself. So now I'm going to inflict this suffering and I'm going to beat the crap out of my legs. And I did.
I think there's something to be said about wanting to be or acting as a leader, as an example, being a man, being a father. I'm not a father, not yet, but there's definitely something. There's got to be something to that, because I think it's easier to motivate ourselves to help other people than it is to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a selfish thing where it's like, hey, it's the way I think of it is this. It's really easy to blow yourself off. Like you're saying, you're sitting in the car dreading leg day. If you go home, the only person who has to deal with that is you, right? You've got to internally deal with that. And that sucks for sure. But like, it's only you.
Yep.
Versus if you know that by you skipping leg day, you are letting down your family, you're letting down your employees, you're letting down your clients and followers and whoever.
Yeah.
Then now it becomes about more than just you. And so this is a mindset shift I think is very powerful. It's like, hey, this is you're gonna get in shape, you're gonna look great, you're gonna feel awesome, all these things. But think of all the trickle down effects to all the other people in your life that this is going to affect. And I think that is such a powerful motivator, especially for men who are business owners who already are a leader or someone who has a family.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting way to think about it. Make it bigger than yourself.
Totally, man. It's like when you commit, you got to commit. And I one of the things that's a big thing is like some guys will be like, oh, let me go home and talk to my wife. And I'll say, hey, let's just play the tape here, right? How many programs have you stopped and started since you've been with your wife? Oh, endless. How many diets have you said you wanted to be on since you've been with your wife? I don't know. Too many to count. Okay. So you're going to now go tell her that you want to do another one of these things that you've yet to ever follow through on or execute on. What do you think her conviction or confidence is going to be to say, yeah, let's go do this? Oh, probably none. Okay. So do we need to have that conversation then? Right? No, because this is a decision you need to make. You need to commit to you. And you need to not even worry about her opinion or her validation. This is about you fixing you. When you get results and when you show up for yourself every single day, your wife will be curious. She will ask you what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it. Because now you're doing what you said what you've been saying you would do forever. So now, once she's curious enough, boy, when your wife looks at you differently from who you were, and now all of a sudden she's like, wow, you're going to the gym, you're showing up differently. And you could see the way that she's proud of you now. And she starts telling her friends, well, Dane gets up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, Dane goes to the gym 7 days a week. You know how good that makes you feel as a man for your partner? It's like, you never want to let them down again. You never want to come home and say, I just I said fuck leg day. I wasn't going to do it. Oh, maybe the old Dane's back, right? So you just keep raising the standard, but you have got to set a new standard. You've got to set a new bar in your own life that you don't need any other validation from anybody else. You will get it when you don't deserve it, right? And that's when you start to get it. It's like when you're not looking for it, people start to validate you, but you're well beyond the need of like needing that validation. You validate yourself through your work and through your habits. And when you do that for yourself, the world around you will start validating you. Like, dude, I don't know how you do it. Oh, the discipline. Wow, the biceps. Save some muscles for the rest of us. Like all these things that people grab onto because it's like you have something that they want and they don't know how to get it. And so that is where I try to teach men. I am your guide right now, but each of you guys in my program, you are the one in your circle, the one in your house, the one in your church, the one in your grocery store, the one in your gym. You are that person. You are doing that work. And so you will have your day. Just keep doing the work, keep getting better at the master plan, and you will be that person. And that takes a life of its own. You know, like guys we do a weekly call, and every week we have guys come in like, my boss is like super, he's like, what the hell are you doing? Yada, 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 you know? And now all of a sudden they're curious. So there's your ability to influence, right? So I think that it all ties back to a much bigger purpose. Just training and nutrition. Like if you just need a meal plan and training plan, like just go on YouTube, bro, and like save yourself. Like, but when you're truly trying to incorporate and change your lifestyle, you got to invest in the blueprint. You got to find somebody that's done that and can collapse time and literally give you the entire step-by-step playbook.
Exactly what I was just going to say. Like, this is the real value of having a coach versus just joining a program, because the information is not, it's not rocket science. Like, we don't have some new special crazy, brand new scientifically whatever diet that's like, oh, this is the one and nobody else in the world knows about it. Like, trust me, like, I'm smarter than everyone. Like, anyone who says that is wrong or lying to you.
That's right.
But so having a coach to talk you through it, and like you spoke about earlier in the check-ins, where maybe it's supplementation, maybe it's training, maybe it's nutrition, maybe it's mindset, maybe it's sleep, maybe it's blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Knowing which lever to pull, which thing to dial in on, because the default is going to be the easiest path, the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Well, things are not going this week. Maybe I should up my dose of fish oil. I can do that. It's like, like maybe, but like, is that really the issue? Maybe you just like drag an ass in the workouts. Maybe you skipped a few meals. Maybe like some things that are really difficult, but you need someone who's going to give it to you straight and be like, hey, listen, like you're just not hitting it in the workouts. You're not hitting it in the gym. You're not hitting it in nutrition. Like your fish oil thing is fine. Yeah, up the dose maybe, but like that's not going to move the needle. Like none of these things are really the thing. So we've got to have someone who's going to hold us accountable, who knows the end of the road to say, this is what you got to do. Now 100%. now go execute. Yeah. Another thing with it is like the decisions, right? Like you said, business owners, family men, busy things, lots of things going on. You make so many decisions a day. Isn't it so much easier if someone's like, hey, I looked at everything. Trust me, I'm the expert. I know all the stuff. Here's what you got to do. Go execute. You don't need to make a decision.
So much peace of mind in that, right?
Yeah.
Like as a business owner, when I was there, that was it. Like I wanted to create the person I needed most, and I wanted to gift that to the world. Like that is the mission. And it's because there were so many times where I didn't give up because I was very stubborn, but 9 out of 10 people give up. It's like, I keep tweaking, but now like everybody that comes to me, it's usually I don't really know. I've tried this and I've tried that. Is it working? Well, I really don't know. Like there's so much uncertainty. And when you have uncertainty, you can only be motivated for so long. That's going to be fleeting, and you're going to change courses. And when you keep changing courses, you're going to keep recognizing this pattern of, I don't stick to anything. And therefore, I don't get results. And hey, maybe it's just not meant for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to be in great shape. Maybe I have bad genes. Maybe I've missed my window. Maybe it's too late. All these maybes, which are just doubt. And when we have doubt, we have very little energy that we put behind things that we doubt, right? But when we have complete conviction and belief inside, boy, we'll run through a wall with a strapped on helmet, and we'll do it every day over and over again. Because we know putting this helmet on every day, strapping it on and put my head through this wall is going to lead to the result I want. And we do it. And that's just kind of the nature of us, right? That's the beast that we try to wake up in men. I try to make them tap into, when was the most athletic you were? When was the place where you really found that other side of you? It's like high school, college wrestling. There's always this place. But man, that was so long ago. I got a bum knee and I'm too old. No, it's in there. You have not listened to that voice in a very long time because you stopped believing that guy was still present. So we teach them. And so I always believe that love ain't lies. One of the things I teach my guys, you may not always like what I say to you. You may not like that I challenge you, but I love you and I care about you. And if there is something that is factually true about your behavior, then you need to know it because it's detrimental to your success. And so guys will always tell, and all the testimonials you'll see, be like, if you're not doing it, he's going to call you on your bullshit. Right? And it's because I care. And I know I've been where they are. I know when they're doing things and when they're not doing things. And I know the level of intensity. So that type of caring is I've always hired coaches, and I've hired guys that are going to give it to me raw. Don't sugarcoat this shit for me, man. Give it to me raw. And I've hired some of the most brutally honest dudes on the planet where sometimes I hang up and I'm like, I can't believe he just spoke to me that way, but at the end, I never got sensitive to that. I always went, but why was he so angry? What was he really angry about? What am I not seeing? And I always walked away now I get it. I see, okay, now I know what he said. So that takes a certain type of being, the best fits for me are people that have a high interest in self-development because they understand that this is a process of discovering self again and just building it back stronger and better. And you're using this component of your physique as really strengthening that fortitude.
It's just about caring about people and caring about yourself. I think we've gone too soft overall, where like everything's okay. Again, the dad bod thing, what we spoke about at the beginning.
Yeah, glorifying.
Everything's okay, everything's fine. It's like, like maybe, but also could you be better? You know, like we can be a little bit better. It's just, I think, a good analogy here. The way that I say it to my clients, like you say, I might say things straight, but I always love you. The way that I kind of say it is, I won't always be nice to you, but I'll always be good to you. You know?
Yeah.
And so I think another analogy is like, think about, again, I don't have kids, but I can imagine this. Your kid gets a bad mark on their homework, right? And they failed a test.
Yeah.
If you don't care about that, you say nothing to that. As a kid, there might be one thing where it's like, there might be one thought where it's like, oh, dad, let me get away with it. Yeah. But after a couple times, it's going to turn into, well, dad doesn't care.
Yeah.
Versus like you fail your test and your dad's on your ass, like, hey, you got to study harder, like you got to do it. Like, okay, it's a little bit annoying because I didn't want to do my homework and whatever, but like I know that dad cares about this.
That's right.
And so I think it's the same thing with a coach-client relationship, and I think it's the same thing with your self relationship. You can evaluate what you did and be like, hey, I just really didn't hit it today, and I got to get my shit together and get this going. Or you can take the other route of like, oh, well, I tried, so poor me. Like, it's just not going to get you.
There's always tomorrow. Yeah, there's a point of having grace, but there's also a point of like I grew up in the age of like, if the coach wasn't yelling at you, he didn't care about you. Like you weren't important enough for him to yell at you. So like that's always been something that I grew up believing. Like there's a high investment when a coach takes his time out to put his energy towards you to correct something, right? Like he doesn't need to put that energy on me if he doesn't care, if he doesn't see something in me. So I do the same thing with my kids. I'm not easy on them. It's like I will always reward. Here's what you did really well. But what we did wrong, we're always going to observe what we did wrong so that we know how not to repeat it. And so one kid will take it, he will learn. The other kid, he just almost like does list, And so that would annoy me. It was like, damn it, I'm not getting, like every time I got a coachable moment, he just doesn't want to listen. And so I stopped trying to correct at certain points and I try to find other ways to get that lesson in, But one of the things that I came to realize is habits are not taught, they are caught. And that was super powerful for especially my oldest son. It was like, I could tell this kid like until the cows come home something, he just doesn't want to live. He's very stubborn that way. He just, he doesn't like to be corrected. But if he sees me do something, he wants to be just like that. He wants to be doing it right alongside me. So it always gives me a chance when I'm failing at something. How I've reversed that psychology with him is I'll call him in and say, hey, listen, right now I'm not winning. I'm failing. I'm frustrated. I am so angry and I just want to get up and I want to leave. I don't want to be doing this. Right. And I'll tell him, but that's where most people quit. And that's not what Palarinos do. Palarinos, they take a deep breath. They walk around and they come back to do the work that everyone else wants to stop doing because that's where you grow. And I may grow 10%, I may grow 100%, I may only grow that much, but I will grow because I will force myself to do the hard thing. And that is where you become elite. And I know he wants to be elite. It's everything he does. He always wants to be the best. So when he sees it and then he watches the videos, I start to recognize now, like he's like, I don't want to miss one day of school this year. I want to have a perfect attendance. Last year, every morning it was a fight to go to school, like every single morning. And then this year it was like, no, I want to be the best. Some kid last year got an award and I want that award this year. And it's like, damn, habits aren't taught, they're caught. And so, there's ways and so I share that, not to brag, but you have to be the standard for these people in your life. You have to show them, like the dad bod's only accepted because the bunch of neighborhood dads have decided to let their fucking asses go and there's nobody that looks good. But let Johnny Shredded come in the neighborhood all jacked and show up at the summer pool party. Every one of those fat asses are starting to go, damn, who the hell's this dude? What the hell he have to, they're going to hate on him because they're going to be irritated, but there's going to be the 1% that's inspired by him and says, hey, Johnny, what are you doing, man? Right? Help me get my shit together. And so now you got a standard in the neighborhood that all the other guys have to use as a reference. So I think that those are two really important talking points to recognize.
100%. I think this is even true when we talk about social settings and people kind of judging, you're at the work lunch and everyone ordered pizza and you bring out your container of chicken and rice or, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that when the people are like, oh, come on, live a little, like, why don't you just join us, have a piece?
Yes.
It's more a reflection of them on themselves than it is on you. People don't actually give that much of a shit unless they're like really close to you. People don't actually care about you that much.
No.
They don't care that you're eating the chicken and rice.
That's right.
They just care that by you doing that, it makes them feel bad because they know that they should be doing what you're doing.
That's it.
And same as you said, the shredded guy comes into the neighborhood, dad bod was cool, and now all of a sudden there's a shredded guy. And now everyone can't be okay with that because now there's someone out there who's right there, the next door neighbor, who's doing better than we are.
That's right.
And now it shows us what we need to do.
Yeah.
So
once you
anyone
see
who's
it,
giving you that
unsee
negative.
It.
Exactly. Anyone giving you that negative, it's a reflection of themselves.
That's right.
It's not. They don't care that much about you to be like actually negative towards you about.
That's 100%. I have a client that was telling me he's gone on this journey with us from like 22% down to 12% in the last like 10 weeks, right? And he's been dialed in. So he's like, once I commit, I commit. And he's a perfect client. He's literally followed it to he's had a lot of questions. Well, I need to know the why and help me. Oh, I really want to do this instead of that, but why do I need to do it this? And as long as I educate him on that why, all right, he buys in. And so he's just bought in. So he's like, he travels. He's an SVP at a company. So he travels a lot. And he's like, normally I'm eating the burger, but then the first couple of weeks, I'd be in the corner with my chicken and whatever it was, his beef and beans and rice. I'd be eating. It was like I was hiding from the rest of the people, He's like, but then I decided like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like, so we all had lunch and here I come with like containers and it's like, everyone, because they had seen him drop drastically and he look healthy. I mean, he looks like he's 10 years younger. Now all of a sudden they were not criticizing him, but complimenting and being curious, which is a shift that a lot of people experience. First, there's the criticizing, then there's the curiosity, right? There's two stages like, oh, this son of a bitch isn't stopping. He's still doing the chicken and rice. Chicken and rice is just a metaphor, but they see that he's not stopping. He's like, so the whole lunch was around like, well, how much do you eat like that? And why do you eat like that? And how long does it take you? And does it taste good? And how do you cook it? And all because they are like, I want a little bit of that. Like they know that you've changed. Your physical change is just a representation that you're changing internally, like you're becoming a better version of yourself. And everybody wants that deep down inside. When you look the same year after year and it's a slow boiling frog, you're gaining the 5 or 7 or 10 pounds every year. You don't feel good about yourself. You could be the most joyous, outgoing person, but deep down, this person's not waking up in the morning and fucking high-fiving themselves in the mirror like, yeah, dog, nobody's touching me today. They're putting their head down, then they're putting the mask on. Here we go. Let's go to work.
I love it, man. That's a mic drop moment. Is there anything? I want to end this on a high note because like people need to take that now. Go do some shit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about though that we didn't get to?
No, I think the one thing would probably be you cannot have the body of your dreams tomorrow, right? So you have to understand that the process isn't about the results. You can't chase the results. You have to set a vision of where you want to go and have macro patience that you will get there over time. But you have to instill micro urgency. What that means is what can you do today, controlling the controllable, that's going to lead to that better version of yourself. And so the thing that has been the cornerstone of my program and of my success has been 5 daily non-negotiables that I've incorporated in my own lifestyle. And it came from having 5 really bad habits that allowed me to recognize habits aren't lost, they're transferred. You've got to swap them. And so I swapped it out. And so I'll share that with the audience because I think this is a great way to end it from a positive standpoint. You can literally change your life starting right now if you start incorporating these things. So the first thing is get up early, whether it's 5 o'clock, 4:30, 4 o'clock, at least 30 to 60 minutes earlier than everyone else in your house, or at least an hour earlier than you're getting up now, and work on getting it back. Over time, your body will get adjusted because your nighttime routine will start to unwind earlier and you'll get up earlier. That will be a victory. When you know you're up and the sun is not up, there's a little bit of a mental note that, damn, I did it. So number 1 is get up early. Number 2 is pick a book that's going to help you on mindset, that's going to help you change the way you look at things. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And a lot of us need to start rewiring our thoughts because that negative self-talk has led you to where you are. You've told yourself so many stories that you now don't believe your own word. So you need to get into a book for 10 minutes a day. That's the second thing. The third thing is... Any
favorite books, Dane? Not to interrupt, but any favorite books?
I have so many favorite books. The one that I'm reading now is... I'm reading so many, but I'm reading The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. is one that I'm reading now. I read a couple of books at a time, but that 10-minute one is the Daily Stoic. 365 days, you pick the day, and it gives you a breakdown. It's literally 2 minutes. And then I read another book. The Science of Getting Rich is a book that I've always read. It's just a really great book. So those are two really good books. So the second thing is I feed myself that positive information so that Dane doesn't get in the way of Dane with negative self-talk. Because I can wake up still angry and negative, right? Just the way sometimes you're wired. It takes a while to unwind that. But if I start feeding that positivity, say, okay, I start changing it. The third thing is get your training session done in the morning. Whether it's 15-minute body weights or you have the ability to go to the gym, you got to sweat. You got to raise your vibration by moving the body, releasing serotonin, and elevating yourself, because we all wake up in a low vibration state. So you want to elevate through a workout. The fourth thing is you want to follow a meal plan with whole food, single ingredient foods. However you want to do it, I follow and believe in macro-based meal plans. So every meal, whether it's 3 meals, 4 meals, 5 meals, 6 meals, has protein, carbs, and fats with a veggie. And it's balanced, and you have that target. So you're feeding your body the right way. And then the fifth one is sustain from other outside substances like weed, alcohol, porn, any of those vices. They're detrimental to the mind. They're unwind everything else you've worked on throughout the day. So I removed all those from my life. So those are my 5 daily non-negotiables that you can literally start doing tomorrow. And at the end of the day tomorrow, if you do all 5 of those things, you will feel like a different person at 8 o'clock at night than you do tonight at 8 o'clock.
Wonderful. And arguably, if you even did only one of those things, you would start to improve your life right away.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, hey, at least I woke up at 4 o'clock today. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And you get a chance to kind of reset. So we teach guys how to master those habits, and then we give them the tools of using the guidelines of being intentional in the morning with the training, meal plan to follow, do the other things, and then they build up momentum to better compliance.
Amazing, Dane. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we could definitely keep going on this, but let's leave the people here on a high note and with lots of action to take from this.
Yeah,
where can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more, ask about your coaching, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can go to my website, which is just dadbodsculptors.com, and on there will be all my contact information, as well as it'll take you to all my socials. My Instagram is dadbod_sculptors. That's another major platform of mine. But yeah, the best place probably the website, and that'll take you to my LinkedIn, my YouTube, my Instagram, and there's also the ability to kind of message and contact me directly if you want.
Beautiful. dadbodsculptors.com. I'll put it in the show notes as well. Dane, any last words that you want to leave the people with here in closing?
No, I would just say that, find a way to recognize and set a standard in your life that may seem difficult, but you don't think about what is in front of you now. Think about how you will feel when you get on the other side of it. You will have a level of gratitude and appreciation for the hard work that you've instilled and the discipline that you've incorporated in your life to elevate this area, that so many other things open up to you. So everything that you're in lack of right now is because you're refusing to do some of this work. But if you do this work and you find a process that works with your busy schedule, you will find that you will become a much better, bigger, stronger, happier version of yourself. And I think ultimately that leads to more power and influence.
Wonderful. Dane, thank you so much. Dane Palarino, Dad Bod Sculptors. Make sure you guys are following him on Instagram. Check out the website for all more content and more contact info. Share the podcast, share with a friend, share, subscribe, review, all those kind of good things. Help spread the message and take control of your life and do some good stuff with it.
That's right.
Go outside, be a good person. We'll see you next time.